If you look at the Clemson line at that 11, it looks tough, but that's a teaser, man. And I don't know where you want to tease that, but if you're thinking Clemson's going to, take care of business against Notre Dame, but you're worried about a garbage touchdown at the end, maybe tease that 11 down to 5, because you're going past 10, you're going past 7, and you're going past 6, That's not a bad idea. Maybe box them with like an FIU plus 12, moving them from 6 to 12 or something, That's kind of what my thoughts are on Clemson there with that weird looking line. I'm not usually a college teaser guy, but when it comes to two teams that so much about and there's so much information about, that line's going to be sharp.
Yeah, I lean Clemson, but I went against Notre Dame with Stanford and Syracuse and lost, and I think those were the only two games. Yeah. Wait, I might have played, or at least personally, I might have played Michigan at the last second, just for giggles, because that was a night game week 1. But my point being, obviously Dungy getting hurt in the first quarter had a lot to do with the Syracuse Notre Dame game, but I just have not had luck with Notre Dame games. So
no one has, and everyone was on Syracuse. It wasn't just you. Everybody was, And when I knew that every single better out there was, it made me a little bit nervous in the first place.
Yes.
And I agree, and that's why I like the teaser more than that. But they haven't faced a trenches or a team like Clemson, and my God, does their quarterback look good? Trevor Lawrence. You realize why they dumped Kelly for that kid. He's just pinpoint accurate from what I saw, and that's why I think they're the closest thing to Bama. And if Tua plays like he did against Georgia, Clemson wins that game, in my opinion. And so, we need the old Tua back if we're going to give Alabama, that game. But
you have another just quick thing on Oklahoma. People need to remember Marquise Hollywood Brown, Oklahoma's badass wide receiver. He's also questionable, like Tua. He got a foot injury. So that's something to keep an eye on here the next 3 weeks.
Oh, great point. Absolutely. He's a key factor in that offense. Yes, definitely keep an eye on that, and we'll see what happens there. But that's why you're not going to jump on Bama right now from anything, from a teaser. I'm not going to jump on the total. I'm just letting that one sit and let everyone else move that line until the very end. Then I'll make a decision whether I'm going to move on that one myself, my man. I love the lean on Penn State. I actually think that's one that one should cover, in my opinion. You got McSorley trying out for the NFL basically this game, kind of like we'd mentioned Drew Lock. This is a big audition to him. Kentucky had a great season, but you saw what happens when they step up in class. It was a little bit tough against the Georgias out there. They had a big stinker against Tennessee too, but I think that Penn State, they should be motivated. Juwan Johnson's back and healthy. Miles Sanders is running great, so I love that side. I got Michigan at -6 just because I knew which way that line was going to go. And like you said, Florida, they really exceeded my expectations this year. I'm sure they exceeded yours a little bit.
Mine too.
You got to be excited if you're a Gator fan for the next few years here, my man.
No doubt, Kiev. As long as Dan Mullen coaches football, as long as he coaches football into his 80s, it doesn't matter, however long he's around. And I get, you can kind of dissect his stats by seeing that, Florida played 2 FCS teams because Idaho moved down to FCS and we owed them a return game from a hurricane or storm washed out postponed game like 3 or 4 years ago. And he did, pad his stats against Idaho and Charleston Southern. But if you would have told me in August that Felipe Franks would have a 23-6 TDI-INT ratio, and I'm not looking at his stats right now, but I think he had 7 rushing touchdowns. And I will compliment him on this. He is a physical runner and, is a tough kid, runs hard. But Dan Mullen will never do a better job coaching quarterbacks than he did getting that guy to have a 23-6 TDI-INT ratio. I've come to kind of respect him because he plays tough and he plays hard, but he's just at any moment he is just one play away from or two plays away from throwing back-to-back pick sixes. Oh, yeah. But that's just a compliment to Mullen, and I am very, very pleased with him and excited about the future. And really, if Franks hits the flea flicker on the opening play against Georgia, who knows how that game goes? Because I thought Florida controlled that game for 3 quarters, other than Franks's incompetent mistakes.
Oh yeah, absolutely, and you know that there's going to be some box stacking come that Michigan game a little bit. I think they're going to make Franks have to beat them. We'll see if Mullen tries to throw a little wrench in that one. But, this thing at 7.5 and growing comes into almost buyback territory for me for at least half or wherever. So we'll see kind of where that ends up personally. My last thoughts for this podcast, the only total that I really liked was the Vandy versus Baylor. It's at 55 points. You look at a team like Baylor, they rank 7th in plays per game. Matt Rule has that offense where he likes to play fast. I think Baylor should be motivated. They had a terrible season last year, and they're now trying to prove that they're a very good team. And I think Vandy's a little bit fraudulent on defense, personally. They have an offense. Vanderbilt actually to make a bowl. They won their last 2 games. They beat Ole Miss 36-29, and then they took care of business at Tennessee and scored 38 points. So I think their defense might be a little fraudulent when it's on the road, giving up 31 to Arkansas. So I personally, I'm taking that over 55, and I think this game should go into the 60s.
I love your thought process. I love your thought process there. Vandy's offense was just smoking down the stretch. 45 at Arkansas, 28 at Mizzou, 36 against Ole Miss, and 38 to Tennessee. Kyle Shermer might be the most underrated player in America. Collegiate Lipscomb, New Orleans kid, one of the best wide receivers in the SEC, and Keyshawn Vaughn. Now, he might be a guy to keep an eye on, possibly turning pro, and I don't think he would not play in the game. But yeah, both teams, obviously Baylor hadn't gone to a bowl game in a couple of years, extremely motivated. Obviously Vandy, anytime they go to a bowl game, they're motivated. And yeah, Vandy's defense was not very good all year. They had 14, gave up 14 to Kentucky, but Kentucky's offense is garbage, and 13 to Tennessee. Tennessee's offense is garbage. Vandy was very, very close to having an enormous season. They out-yarded Notre Dame in South Bend. They fumbled on the 1-yard line. They missed like a 35-yard field goal. They had a couple of drops on the fringe of the red zone their last drive at Notre Dame. They were up 21-3 on Florida when Vaughn got hurt. If Vaughn doesn't get hurt, the Gators don't rally. Vaughn had to miss the game at Kentucky. If he plays against Kentucky, they damn sure score more than 7 points. And they led at Missouri pretty much the entire game. And I know some cappers in Vegas that have Missouri in the top 12 to 15 of their power rankings. So I like your thinking a lot with the over on that one.
Good call, sure. Man. That's great. That's great because, Baylor, they ain't stopping anybody either, giving up 6.3 yards per play, 32 points a game. So that one, if you like it, I say take that as soon as possible. Let's move on to well, you know what? Let's talk a little bit. We touched on Alabama a little bit. I think we touched on everything we could in the College Bowl. Let's move on to UFC, my man. And you love the UFC. I listen to your show all the time about it. Games galore. And there's a big event this week, UFC 31. You have Holloway versus Ortega and plenty other fights on the card. Is there anything that really sticks out to you?
Well, I'm not going to say risk the mortgage here, but I like Ortega. to beat Holloway. I'm trying to get Holloway's resume in front of me here, but I'm just going to go off memory until I get it in front of me. I'm pretty sure he's won 11 in a row. He has not lost since he fought Conor McGregor, which, if memory serves, that was like McGregor's third fight in the UFC, and Holloway was only 21 at the time, and Holloway lost a decision to McGregor. McGregor actually tore his ACL in the second round of that fight and just kind of got a takedown and kind of, just gutted it out in the third round. But okay, now I got Holloway's resume. Yeah, since McGregor, August 17th of 2013. Since then, he's won 11 in a row. Now, if Max is the guy that he was from 2015 to his last fight when he fought Aldo in a rematch, December 2nd of 17, and he finished Aldo twice. I don't think Aldo had ever been finished in his career other than against McGregor. If that Max Holloway is what we see Saturday night, we're going to have probably the greatest fight in featherweight history. But this year, so this is what happened first with Holloway. So we had the debacle in Brooklyn with McGregor and the bus attack that scratched those fights. Khabib was going to face Ferguson, and Ferguson messed his knee up at a media event, tripping over something. So they call Holloway in to fight on like 6 days' notice. He flies from Hawaii, and he had to drop a bunch of weight, in a very quick time, in 5-6 days, and he's cutting weight on Friday. The doctors with the New York Athletic Commission made him stop. Okay, so he was ruled out of that fight. So they scheduled him to fight Ortega in July, and he's doing an interview with Bisping on UFC Tonight, and he's showing concussion symptoms. And Bisping actually said to him, did you just wake up? You're acting a little groggy. And he's kind of played it off, and they were like he had concussion symptoms, and they pulled him out of the fight. And they never really found out what was wrong with him. But anyhow, he's back training full, and obviously he's going to defend his belt here for the second time. But there's just a lot of red flags for me in that he never really got diagnosed what the hell was wrong with him, why he was dizzy, why he was slurring his words there for a couple of weeks, as it turned out. And that, I think it has something to do with his weight cut. So look, even if Max is full, ready to go, it's still going to be a barn burner, and I give Ortega a good chance. Let's remember, Ortega's undefeated. He's never lost. In fact, he's never had a fight go to a decision. He's finished all 15 of his opponents ever. Okay, he just became the first person to knock out Frankie Edgar ever. Frankie Edgar's in his late 30s. He has fought for the belt at featherweight multiple times. He was the lightweight champ. Had a rematch with Maynard, had a rematch with Ben Henderson. I mean, Frankie Edgar has fought the best in the business and never been knocked out. Ortega knocked him out in the first round earlier this year. I mean, Ortega is the best jiu-jitsu in the UFC, with the one exception of Damian Maia. And he is also big time on the feet as well. I like Ortega at even money, but watch the weigh-ins. Watch how Holloway, does he make weight? They've got a backup. Moicano, Hanato Moicano was going to be on this card, and his opponent got injured, so they're just telling him to make weight. And if there's any issues, Moicano gets the title shot, if either fighter has issues. So I like Ortega. The co-main event, Joanna against Valentina. Joanna's the former strawweight women's champ. That's 115 pounds. She's going up to 125 to fight Valentina. Valentina has already beat her in Muay Thai like 5 or 6 years ago, multiple times, either 2 or 3 times. Valentina's fought at 135. She's a lot bigger and stronger. Look, I love Joanna, but Valentina's a huge favorite now, so I'm not saying bet on her. She's like minus 350.
Shevchenko,
If there's a dog to look for, Alex Cowboy Oliveira on the main card plus 110 against